which means whenever I enter the car after reaching my destination, I'll have at least 30% of the charge left in the car. And if it wasn't for the Sentry mode, I wouldn't have been able to claim the damage that someone did to my car. But in any case, I cannot just trust that system. And there's a trick which I use, especially when phantom braking is the issue. After whatever incident happened with Elon Musk and his actions or salutes or whatever you want to call it. But in Australia, we haven't seen the decline of the brand, as well as it's not as big or drastic as other countries. And that's a good thing. Well, I've been driving my Tesla Model 3 for last 3.5 years. In fact, in December, it's going to be 4 years since I purchased my Tesla Model 3. In those 3 years, I've actually got into some sort of a routine when it comes to driving my Tesla Model 3 and things I do with it. So in this video, let's talk about the routine. So the first thing I do before leaving house is actually checking the car for any sort of damage. Because last year, my car was actually damaged in a parking lot and I didn't know until I washed my car after the incident. And then I had to check the footage, and all that, whatever happened, the trauma of that, I think set inside me. And psychologically, I'm just inclined to check my car before leaving, as well as when I park my car back at home, just to make sure it's not damaged, or physically I'm not looking at something which shouldn't be there, including checking the tire pressure from like outside or the tread of the tires. Because so that's first thing, checking your car like physically from outside if there's any damage. Well, the second thing would have to be tuning into my YouTube playlist. The best part about buying a Tesla and owning a Tesla is that you got user profiles, which means whenever I enter the car, I get my entertainment, as well as my wife's driving the car. She got her pick of the entertainment, because I listen to YouTube music, especially I've started listening to Joe Rogan's podcast, because they were not available earlier on YouTube, and now they've just started rolling them out maybe 5 or 6 months back. But the fact that I can access that without using my phone, without using anything, and it just picks up from wherever I left off, it's just amazing. After the entertainment, I ensure the car's charged enough that after reaching my destination, I'll have at least 30% of the charge left in the car. Because that means that I would be able to keep the Sentry mode on when I'm out and about. Because I said earlier, I've got into a scenario where my car was actually hit, and if it wasn't for the Sentry mode, I wouldn't have been able to claim the damage that someone did to my car. Because funny enough, they literally ran away, and I've actually created a video for that one as well. Check it out if you haven't. They hit and they went away, and just because I had footage from Sentry mode, I was able to sort of sort it out, and I got it fixed for free. But other than that, everything gets sorted out by my user profile, because all the settings that I do earlier are saved to my profile, and hence I don't have to touch it again, including my preference of the maps, because I've synced my calendars, so it knows that at this time I would be going to office, and it actually picks up my map and navigation as well. So the next thing would have to be autopilot. Like, there's no doubt there's any feature that I love about my Tesla more than autopilot. Not the full self-drive, just the autopilot. Usually I just turn it on, and although I pay attention, but it's way less tiring for me to drive in my Tesla compared to even my BYD. And that does have decent system. It's not the worst, but in any case, I cannot just trust that system. With Tesla, I can trust the autopilot to do most of the maneuvers on its own. And obviously there's been rumors as well as cases where phantom braking have been quite a big issue. But for me in Brisbane, Australia, I don't think I've ever got into a very, very, very sticky situation, or a situation where I thought I would never use autopilot from now onwards. Like, you always have to be cautious while using it, that's for sure. And there's a trick which I use, especially when phantom braking is the issue, that I sort of know that if my car's thinking there's something there, you just have to tap the accelerator just a tiny bit to let the car know it's safe to proceed. And that usually fixes my sort of known spots where autopilot's been struggling or have struggled in the past, because there's a particular spot on the freeway when we go to Sunshine Coast, and they maybe because the construction was happening back in the day, so the map that picks up there, the current speed is 110, but for whatever reason the car still thinks it's 80, and it just switches back to 80, and it's sort of phantom brake. So in that case, I know that around this area I have to be cautious. I still use autopilot, but just tap the accelerator and it usually fixes it. And the fourth thing is just enjoying the drive and knowing that I'm not spending hundreds of dollars, or for the commute that I do right now, it's very less. But even when I was going to a different office where it was like 25 kilometers, or even at one office, it was 45 kilometers drive one way, which would have costed me around, I would say, if it's 7 liters, let's say it does 100, so $14 for 100 kilometer, which was my sort of the entire distance back and forth. So it would have costed me $14 each day. But with my Tesla, it costed me around $2. So if you think about all the money that I save, it's sort of pushes me to think and appreciate the car even more. I totally understand if you're charging your car on sort of public chargers, then the scenario is entirely different. It might not offset the cost as much as it does for me. But knowing that I'm driving an electric car, standing here in standstill traffic, it doesn't actually bother me. I still have my aircon on, I'm not polluting, I'm just enjoying. And the best part about Tesla is the autopilot doesn't need you to input any sort of action for it to follow the car in front of you. With BYD, after 3 seconds, the cruise disengages, which means you have to pay attention in case the car moves on. With autopilot, I can just look at the camera and I know the car is going to move when the next car moves. Although I was looking through my peripheral vision, and I suggest you to do the same, like always pay attention. But the fact that the car is smart enough to pick up the speed is good enough. But only problem with autopilot is I think it doesn't recognize a red light. Or it recognizes red light, but it doesn't stop at a red light. So just be cautious, right? And the last couple of things are not about the routine of me driving actually, but more to do with how I interact with Tesla as my car, right? So during the day, I keep an eye out on the app for any sort of Sentry events or things like that. And occasionally I do check the internal temperature is not too high. Although I do have the protection on where your car switches on the aircon, like it feathers it. So in case if it's too hot, the car doesn't let the interior damage. And there's a particular setting you can do, like at what temperature your interior protection would trigger. But I still keep an eye out on the battery percentage, just in case if I was not able to charge my car, then it's a good idea to just keep an eye out, but don't overdo it. Like I used to overdo it. Like first year of ownership, I was just checking the app too often. And then I realized that by checking the app, you're actually connecting to the car, which in turn sort of consumes more battery than it should. So I've learned not to overcheck my car now. But saying that, having access to all the cameras is just a peace of mind. Like whenever I want to check something, I would be able to do it. Like if there's any trigger of alarm, I don't need to worry about if I'm in a meeting or I'm busy. I don't have to stress over until I reach to the car. I would be able to check the Sentry event of what happened. And this is one of the updates that came late last year where that feature was enabled. And that's just Tesla, right? Like they do stuff that is so useful, that's so user-friendly, that you think that it should have been part of your car, and you do miss on other cars. Like the ability for you to check the cameras when your car is parked, it's so good. Especially with all the activities or I would say mischief that's happening around Tesla. But to be fair, in Australia, we haven't seen as many vandalisms as we've seen reports from coming from US after whatever incident happened with Elon Musk and his actions or salutes or whatever you want to call it. But in Australia, we haven't seen the decline of the brand, as well as it's not as big or drastic as other countries, and that's a good thing. Because if you think about it, when similar thing happened with Apple, right? Like, well, there was a time when Apple actually lost or was hacked through their cloud, and a lot of celebrities lost their personal pictures and stuff. The reputation of Apple as a brand was built around safety, security, and we are the most secure phone, we are unhackable and whatnot. That did suffer, but do we not buy Apple anymore? I think similarly, I don't think hating Tesla as a brand would last forever. Like, if you really want to buy an electric car, there's just two options. Either you buy a Tesla or you buy something else. And that's the fact of electric market. And once you drive it, that's what I say to whosoever says we hate Tesla. The first thing I ask them, when was the last time you drove one? And mostly they say we haven't driven one. Maybe as a passenger they've been part of a Tesla drive, but not physically, not practically driving one. And that's just so odd. Like, if you want to hate something, just find reasons to actually hate it, not just follow the sheep or herd mentality, right? So coming back to the point, in that case, I would say having Sentry mode or access to things like that is just amazing. And I hope every other car manufacturer would be able to provide such a service. Because even with my BYD, we do have a dash cam, which means every time I'm driving, it captures those details. But if I'm parked, then it won't capture anything. And especially, I think any incident that happens at the back of the car or the side of the car, it doesn't capture. But it only captures at I think if there's a incident that happens in front of the car, because there's only one camera. With Teslas, it's surrounded camera. So in that case, it's pretty good. So just to recap, I use Autopilot. I check my car physically just for any damages or anything that should be not there or should be there and it's missing. The third thing is I plan my playlist, and I usually have stuff that I listen in the car which I don't usually do, and that brings me to a different mood or mindset whenever I'm driving the car, and it attaches that mental feeling with the car, because I can listen to the same podcast in my BYD, but the fact that I can pick up the same episode without even touching anything whenever I enter the car is just so powerful that I just appreciate it, and it's something which subconsciously you start to enjoy. At least I do. And the last thing would be check your battery percentage to make sure you have enough charge for the next day. Otherwise, make sure you plug the car when you get back home. And please ensure the charging schedule is not interfering with the charge, because currently I do have my charging schedule set to 6 a.m., which means every day whenever the car is plugged, the car is only going to start to charge at 6 a.m. But if I want to charge it overnight, I do have to switch it off manually. And the reason I personally do it, because at 6 a.m. we have sunlight and I do have solar panels, which means I would be able to charge the car for free. But in case my battery percentage was lower than what I needed for the day, I would have to either switch it off or find myself in a situation where I have to go to a supercharger to charge it or get late to wherever I want to be. So in that case, just keep an eye out for the battery percentage and enjoy the car that you're driving, because Teslas or any other car, like I'm an EV enthusiast more than a Tesla sort of supporter. Any EV you drive, if you keep an eye out for what sort of battery percentage you have, you would be avoiding all those scenarios where you have to use public network. And other than that, like, that's the gist of how I use my car. And as I said, Autopilot's awesome. Infotainment system is getting better by every update. And if you haven't driven a Tesla yet, just give it a try. Not even the new ones. If you got an old Tesla you can pick up and drive, just go for that, because they are still fantastic cars. And speaking about new one, I've actually taken a drive of the Tesla Model Y, the Juniper version, and it was a fantastic car. I've actually put a video, or in fact a couple of videos about that on my channel, so if you haven't checked them out, just please do check them out. And I'll actually share my thoughts of would I be upgrading to the Tesla Model Y? If yes, then when? If not, then why not? So thanks for watching the video this far. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. And if you like the video, just share with all the people that you think will enjoy it. And I'll see you in the next one.